In this video, we are going to go over some Baitcaster basics. We're going to go over where I recommend you start with baitcasters, what I use, the different parts of a baitcaster, and how to get it all set up and ready to cast before you get out on the water. And stay tuned towards the end because we're going to show you how to pick out the dreaded bird's nest. It happens to all of us, and there's no faster way of ruining a day's worth of fishing. Now there's two different types of baitcasters. There's the traditional or conventional or round reel, or there is the low profile, which is what most of you are probably used to seeing out there on the lakes and the ponds. And that's what we're going to be talking about for the purposes of today's video. Now let's head outside and take a look at the parts and how to get this thing set up. Alright, so lots of folks will get into that big box you know, all-in-one combo for like under $100, which is great. I mean, if that's your budget, awesome. But personally, what I would recommend is I would spend a tiny bit more and upgrade to something in the $70 to $100 reel range, because I've got a lot of hobbies and I've learned over the years that fighting your equipment really just makes your hobby not fun anymore. So I've kind of bought into the idea of spend a little extra money up front if it's something I know I'm gonna like, and get something that's quality. So my opinion, a great entry-level reel would be the Shimano SLX line, which is what I have here. It's the SLX 150. It's an awesome little reel. You can get it for sub $100. I think somewhere around the $75 to $85 range. It's got the internal braking system. I think this is a 6:3 ratio, so it's kind of a slower retrieve, but that's a great ratio to start at, so you're not burning back your baits faster than you should be. Alright guys, hold on there. 98% of you still aren't subscribed, so if you want to help me build this channel and help support, the best thing you can do is go down, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification, and watch these videos all the way through to the end. It helps the algorithm get it out in front of more people, and it helps this channel grow so we can have more and more content and we can keep fishing. But what I would really recommend, if you could save up the money, about $100 more, is the Shimano DC line. This is the SLX DC, and I absolutely love this because DC stands for digital control, I believe. And what that does is it's got a digital braking system that automatically adjusts the brakes as you throw to slow the lure down at I guess the perfect speed, so when it hits the water you don't backlash, which is awesome. So this is about $175, and if you can swing it, I highly recommend it. It's the cheapest DC reel you can get from Shimano, but it's got all the same internals as like the higher end Corodos. This is a great option if you can afford it. Now let's go over a couple of the different parts of the baitcaster. So get a little closer to the camera. Obviously we got the handle here, but there's really only 4 parts that you as a beginner baitcaster really need to worry about, and that is the drag right here. So forward, more drag, back, less drag. The spool tensioner knob right here, which is usually behind the drag star, that controls how freely the spool will spin. And then you've got the brakes right here, which basically slows the spool down. It actually applies a little bit of brakes to the spool to slow it down before it hits the water. And the last part is obviously the thumb release. But as we're talking brakes here, so this is the dial style brake, and the regular Shimano LX or SLX has the centrifugal force internal style brake. So let's see if you can see that there. Hopefully that is in focus. But that, instead of a dial, you flip up these little tabs here and there, and you always make sure you do it in a star pattern, but you flip up these tabs, so the more tabs you have snapped down, the greater the braking pressure. So I have 3 of this 6 down. I usually have between 2 and 3. I like a little more brakes just because I'm not too big. I mean, I'm not super worried about cast distance. I would rather not backlash and, you know, not be able to cast as far. But I do prefer the dial brakes though, because it's easier to adjust on the fly, lure per lure. So that's kind of the basic parts of a baitcaster you, as a beginner with a baitcaster, really need to know. All right, now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this, and that is how to tune up your baitcaster before you hit the water, so on that first cast you're not throwing a backlash. So the way I like to do it is I first give it a release right there. So I release the brake right there, and then I slowly let off. Okay, so my spool tension is actually quite high. It's not going down. He's not, as you can see right here, let me back a little bit, make sure you can see that lure, but as you can see, the lure is not dropping. So what I want to do is slowly back off on this tension knob until it slowly starts to fall like that. Okay? My knot is getting stuck there, but you slowly want it to fall, back off, and it should slowly fall all the way down and hit the ground, and there should be no backlash right there. And as you get more and more proficient at this, you can back off the spool tensioner more and more and feather with your thumb more and more as you cast to get longer distance and a little more control. But this is about the falling speed I recommend people start out with, because it's still going to give you that good whip out there, but it's not going to make you backlash on that first cast. So now that you've got the spool tension right, what you're going to do is you're going to click it, all right? And I'm going to give it a gentle cast to start with, and notice I'm feathering it with my thumb there. So I did that to slow the spool down, even though it's got the digital control. Always have it. You gotta, actually this one doesn't have digital control. This is the regular SLX. So as you saw, I feathered it with my thumb to slow it down to help with the brakes, to make sure it doesn't over spool or overspin the spool there and give me a backlash. So you can also see, well, one came off, but I had these little guards here on my hooks so they don't get tangled up in the grass. And I always like to do this on my grass or on my lawn before I head out, because there's nothing worse than making that cast out there and your spool's not set right, your tension's not set right, your brake's not set right, and you're messing with it with the lure still out there. It sinks down, gets tangled up, gets you snagged, and you break off on your first cast. That's one of the most annoying things to me. So I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with that tension, so I'm going to let off a little bit and let it fall a little faster. All right, well here, let me not thumb it. I'll let it fall a little faster, and see right there, let off too much, and we've got a bit of a backlash. So let's talk about how to get these out. So the first thing I do, I see a lot of people just stick their thumb on it and start pulling. I like to click it right, and then I adjust the drag just enough so I can start pulling. And then you slowly start pulling it out like this. And you want to make sure you undo all of these tangles right here before you start reeling. You see right there? You got a little, it's bent over, I don't know if you can see it, but this piece right here, that's the guy that's causing the backlash. So you kind of just pick at it and pull. Pick at it and pull. And as you can see, you just slowly and gently pull. And what I like to do is I like to pull it until it's lined back up with the line guide right there. So it's kind of at the right spot. So when I start reeling, it's not, you know, way over to one side with my line over here. And then I'm getting this cross-threading, which causes more backlash. It's also important to pinch your line when you reel it back in to create some tension. If you reel it in loose, you're going to end up with a loose spool, which is going to more likely give you a backlash. Okay, now that you know the different types of bait casters, you know what I like to use, you know how to set it up, and you know how to fix it when you break it. It's time to get on out there, make some casts, and catch some bass on your new bait caster. Good luck, everyone.